Hey guys, Aaron Cybertron Zhang here, and today I'm back with another episode of Road to Ranked, where I climb the online series 11 ladder and provide live commentary as I go. In the last episode, we used a really fun team featuring coaching and copycat Riolu, as well as weakness policy Calyrex-Ice Rider. So we'll be playing a couple more matches with it today, and for the first game, I am not a fan because we are up against Weezing, which I think is actually probably one of the most difficult Pokemon to go up against with this team, because we rely on a lot of our abilities to thrive. Especially Riolu. So, unfortunately, poor Riolu might have to sit this one out, at least in terms of the lead matchup. I think the general approach should still be to get Trick Room up. Substitute on Zacian would be very bad for us to run into here. We could actually just lead Torkoal and Venusaur. I don't know, like, they could go Grim, Landorus, Zacian, Landorus. And the other thing is, like, with Riolu, even if they don't lead Weezing, they can always just switch it in on turn 1 to shut down our abilities. So, like, this is not a reliable way to get Trick Room up. So, it might just be NDD with Calyrex, Torkoal in the back, and then Venusaur is the last one. I love Riolu, but I just don't think we can justify bringing it in a matchup with Weezing. Also, like, coaching, attack, and defense boosts are nice here, but we're up against a Calyrex-Ice Rider, so I don't even know if those defense boosts help very much, because the +1 Behemoth Blade still just demolishes us, and then, like, ideally with Calyrex, we'll just knock out Landorus before it can attack us. So, yeah. Either way, thank you to Cats for the team. Details are in the description below. Thank you to you all, as always, for watching. If you enjoyed, please share support by leaving a like. I'd really appreciate it, and it is just going to be Weezing plus Zacian. You know what the problem is here? They can just go for a, Taunt. So then it's like, can NDD survive a Behemoth Blade? Because if so, it gives us a shot, but we're not very defensive, right? No, we are, sorry. For some reason, I thought we had special defense. Okay, then actually, I think it's fine to just follow me into Trick Room. And if a +1 Behemoth Blade KOs max HP, max defense NDD, then so be it. But what were my other leads here? I can't really go with Torkoal. I mean, Torkoal Venu, I guess isn't terrible. But, like, what would I do? Because they could just Behemoth Blade into the Venusaur slot. I am not sure. But if we get Trick Room up against this, it's not that bad. Okay. I was going to say no Dynamax, but obviously you're not going to max Weezing, and Zacian can't Dynamax. So they do just go for Behemoth Blade. Best case would be them Behemoth Blading and, like, Sludge Bombing and just knocking out NDD to give me a free switch in. Okay, nice. With max HP, max defense, we take that. Actually, partially because they can't go for, oh yeah, I guess it's pretty interesting. They can't go for a... They don't get the attack boost, right? Because Weezing's out on the field. So, okay, that works for me. Down Expanding Force. They'll probably just Behemoth Blade the Calyrex slot. Can't protect it. I could max guard it. Like, you know, the play I'm honestly thinking of here is switching NDD out into Torkoal. And then max guarding Calyrex. I know that seems a little bit odd normally, but then the thing is I can just pressure with Eruption next turn. Yeah, I'm gonna go for that. Mainly because I don't need the sun up necessarily right now, and I guess the question is, what does my opponent's Weezing do? They could easily just Sludge Bomb us. Oh, okay. They're going to switch Weezing out. So I've gotten Torkoal out in a really nice spot right now. Maybe into Landorus here for like an Intimidate onto Calyrex? Yeah. Okay, that works with me. Yeah, I'm actually pretty pleased about that, regardless of what Calyrex goes for here. You would think it's a Behemoth Blade, but if it is just a Behemoth Blade into the Calyrex slot, like, we position Torkoal really nicely right now. Even if they Behemoth Blade Torkoal, it's fine. Like, we'll take a lot of damage, so then we probably have to click Burning Jealousy next turn, but it's still okay. But I'd be shocked if they didn't Behemoth Blade the Calyrex slot here. Yeah, because the thing is, you don't want to knock out NDD in that spot, right? If you knock out NDD, you give me a free switch into Torkoal, and that's really awkward. But now, I've got a free Eruption. They really have no switch-in, so honestly, I think I'm down to just... the question here is whether or not I want a Hailstorm into the Landorus slot, but what are their switch-ins in a Hailstorm? Zacian is the only Ice Resist here, so like they don't have a switch-in into it. And Torkoal's faster here, so yeah, I'm down to just go for Hailstorm. Like, yes, I changed the weather, but like I still am launching these full power eruptions off anyway, so... Yeah, this is not a bad spot for how tricky it looked because of Weezing in the beginning of the game. Okay, Landorus just protects. I would think it's a double protect here. That's fine. I get a lot of damage through protect. I mean, the only awkward thing is I changed the weather. We also confirm Landorus is clearly not Assault Vested. That's actually a really big deal because it means this next turn, maybe I just go for a Knuckle or a Quake. Both of those work. Oh my gosh, that's so much damage through protect. Wow. I mean, that's not shocking, right? It's 4 times super effective, and it's a max move into a non-max Pokemon, but still always wild to see like that much damage come out. Okay, if you're my opponent, I think you definitely switch out Zacian here, right? Like, Landorus is always fainting anyway. I'm clicking Eruption once again with Torkoal, that's for sure. How many turns of Trick Room do we have left? Still 2. Eruption, and then what are their switch-ins into Eruption? We know there's Weezing. What do I think the 4th Pokemon is going to be? Grim, Zapdos, Gastro. One of those can take a Hailstorm well. The thing is, I could Quake for a special defense boost as well, but I don't want them switching into Zapdos here, so I'm content just going for Eruption and a Max Hailstorm onto the Zacian slot. I think you have to switch Zacian out here, yeah. So let's see what's coming in. Okay, they're going to bring Weezing back in. Yeah, that makes sense. Give up both of these. They get a double protect off. Maybe that's actually okay, because it denies you a free switch in. The only awkward thing is that it potentially... Like, if we're going to knock out Weezing here, and then it... they will end up just dropping my attack again. Huh. The funny thing is Sun would also go back up again, too. Okay. I mean, that works for us. Would have preferred to just pick up a double knockout there, because now they could potentially conserve Landorus for later on, but we still have Venusaur in the back. The main thing is that they haven't Dynamaxed yet, but like the question is, who do you even Dynamax at this point? Probably not going to be Landorus. Okay, so at least we neutralize the Intimidate here. They didn't get that double protect off. You bring out Zacian, like we still have 1 turn of Trick Room to work with as well. Indeedee is pretty low, but I've got Venusaur in the back. Landorus has gone for protect twice, so they're just going to bring out Zacian. Yep. Surely you just protect Zacian here. What is their final Pokemon? I think it's Zapdos. Question is, do you have Max Flare on the Zapdos? And then whether or not Flare would one-shot Calyrex-Ice. Because what I can do right now is switch Torkoal out into Indeedee, and then go for a Glacial Lance. And then the subsequent turn go for Follow Me into another Trick Room. And the thing is, even if Zapdos is their last one, it's still maybe okay because we have Venusaur. Although if they're like Safety Goggles Zapdos, maybe not then. It's definitely been an interesting game. Yeah, it's just them getting the double makes things harder, but it made sense for them to go for it, right? There's really low downside. Might as well just make things harder for me, because Landorus is basically not going to get an attack off at that point anyway, right? Oh, wow. They did not protect with Zacian. Okay. That's a really bold play. So they read into me expecting that, which is really nicely done on their end. So I assume they're just going to go for Behemoth Blade into Calyrex here. Wow, that's a great play by them. I mean, it's a really high-risk play, right? If I just Eruption there, you just instantly lose. Oh, interesting. They target the Indeedee slot. Okay. That is really interesting. Wow. That's a really, really high-risk play. But it's going to be okay for them now. Okay, so I can bring out Venusaur, which is pretty sweet. So let's see what their last one is. It's got to be Zapdos, right? Yeah. I was like, anything else, and it just doesn't make very much sense. So So now my question is, does your Zapdos have Max Flare? And does Max Flare Insult one-shot Calyrex at full HP? The other question is, how much does Life Orb Earth Power do to Zacian? Like, do I have to click Sleep Powder here? I might. I wouldn't count on it picking up the knockout here. Yeah. So I think the play here is to Sleep Powder into Trick Room. Actually, maybe it's just Sleep Powder into Glacial Lance, because if we survive... Actually, yeah, if we survive... well, actually, I guess they could Max Airstream Venusaur. And we have Torkoal in the back, actually, so it is better to Trick Room here. So we need to hit Sleep Powder and then hope for Zapdos to not one-shot us on Calyrex. The thing is, if they're Life Orb and Max Flare, you do, I think, pick up the KO. But I am curious on the item on Zapdos, especially because AV was not Assault Vested, so I could see Landorus actually having been Life Orb there. It wasn't Choice Tide there, clearly. Okay, we do hit Sleep Powder. That's huge. It always makes me nervous because if we missed or we would have just outright lost. That was a really nice prediction by them to expect me to not attack there. And they go for Airstream. Perfect. Okay, that should be game over then. But yeah, that was dangerously close. If we had Weather Ball there, I don't think Earth Power KOs Zacian if they're bulky there, so I don't want to take the risk. I'd rather like have a 75% chance to insta-win versus deal with damage rolls that I'm not like 100% sure of, right? So we got Trick Room up, which is fantastic. Okay. I'm going to bring Torkoal out. And now with Torkoal and Calyrex out, like, their Dynamax was so late, but they just really can't accomplish very much with it, right? Because I can just click Eruption now and Glacial Lance. So this game worked out decently well for us, but I do feel like we should have had better control. I guess what threw me in for a loop was the Zacian not protecting the turn that I expected it to. But fortunately for us, they did target the Torkoal slot, which was NDD, rather than the Calyrex-Ice. Because if a Calyrex-Ice faints there, I just don't have good damage into Zapdos at all to win the game there. So I was like already surprised when they didn't protect, but I was also surprised they targeted the Torkoal rather than the Calyrex slot there, because Calyrex is clearly like, you know, the strongest thing into the Zapdos there. So maybe they're reading into a protect. But yeah, either way, that was a really intense game. So happy to come out of it with the win. And I think Weezing is just really scary because it shuts down a lot of our options, so we have to play very carefully against it. But we were able to at least neutralize it relatively quickly. And then go from there. So yeah, let's just look for another one. All right, next game of the day, and it's another Calyrex-Ice Rider team with Cinderace and Bisharp. Did we go up against this exact team a couple of days ago, or a very similar team? I definitely remember seeing Cinderace and Bisharp in team preview, expecting, and then not having it come out. So I feel like we went up against this, but I don't remember if it was the exact same team. Okay. I mean, Riolu's very interesting to me here because he can go for coaching. That's it. Cinderace Bisharp is just scary because you can double up on a Calyrex. Torkoal Venusaur is not terrible here, honestly. I do think I'm going to go with Torkoal Venusaur in this one. Calyrex in the back. If I'm bringing Riolu, it's basically only for coaching, and I don't 100% love that. NDD gives me terrain control and follow me. Porygon would give me Shadow Ball and Thunderbolt. I'm actually down for Porygon here because it has Shadow Ball, and that actually helps me deal with Dusclops a lot easier. So, yeah. Not a great day for Riolu, sadly, but it's not... Like, I think one mark of using something like Riolu is being able to identify when it can actually give you major advantages and when it's, like, more of a subpar pick, right? So, in this case, it just, like, I don't think it's very strong for us. It's going to be Cinderace and Calyrex. I actually think this is a really good lead by them because it covers for Torkoal Venu really well. Because, like, I don't want to max Venu here, right? Because if I do, maybe they just go for a... Max Hailstorm. The thing is, like, both of my opponent's Pokemon are max threats right now, and that's what's really scary, in my opinion. Great lead. If I were my opponent, like, I would max Calyrex, but This turn one is so scary for both of us, because the thing is, I have Sleep Powder, right? So, like, I could just say, you know what, I'm just going to Sleep Powder, and if I call it correctly and Sleep Powder over, like, whatever's maxing, it would give us such a huge advantage. But, like, you could protect Calyrex here, for example, and then just Pyro Ball Venusaur. That's a possibility. I mean, I don't want to max Venusaur here. I just went for Earth Power and Burning Jealousy, but I think something maxes here. I don't know. If I had to guess right now, it's Cinderace, but I honestly have no clue. I also wonder if Life Orb Earth Power KOs Cinderace if it doesn't max. Okay, it is max Calyrex, so that's why I wanted to launch Earth Power into Cinderace, so that's good to see at least. But I might have just activated a weakness policy for them, which is also awkward. Okay, so I will get the Earth Power off. What item are you? Whatever it is, it's enough to survive. I don't even know if that's AV. It might just be able to survive anyway. Okay. They're just going to Pyro Ball Venusaur. Yeah. I mean, I could have gone for the Sleep Powder and a Calyrex, but let's say Calyrex protects and then use Pyro Ball. That's so bad for us. We should survive Max Quake, though, actually, right? And they're not Life Orbs, so I don't know. Does AV Cinderace survive? Okay, Torkoal hangs on with just a sliver, but we actually get Burning Jealousy off, which is really good here. Okay. Are you Policy Calyrex? No. Is that AV then? That looks like AV, but it does have a special defense boost. Bisharp, Fini, Gieleki, Dusclops are the remaining options for my opponent. I don't mind just going out into Calyrex, then I can switch Torkoal out into Porygon and then just max my Calyrex right now. That was actually a really good turn one, all things considered in my opinion. Okay, they bring out a Gieleki. If you're bringing out a Gieleki here, I think ideally I want to just max Hailstorm into the Gieleki slot. I mean, Max Quake's obviously really good here as well, but Hailstorm would KO even if they're Focus Sash. I just don't know what their last Pokemon is going to be. I feel like if it were Fini, that would have been a pretty good spot to bring it out in. Okay, I'm fine going for Max Quake in this position because I don't need the knockout onto Gieleki. Gieleki's actually really awkward right now for my opponent because, like, you just don't deal that much damage, and then after a special defense boost, you deal even less. Unless you're, like, Choice Scarf, Electro Ball here, or just Electro Ball in general. You don't even need to be Scarfed. Okay, so we got Porygon. It's going to be an attack boost. I mean, burning our opponent's restricted is really good, and that's one of the upsides of having the Burning Jealousy on Torkoal here, right? So, yeah. Turn 1 could have played out a lot worse. In fact, that actually might have been, like, one of the best possible outcomes we could have had. Where we get a knockout onto the Cinderace, which is probably the biggest threat to our Calyrex-Ice Rider, and we are able to... Okay, they just go for Volt Switch. We get a knockout, and we're able to burn their restricted Pokemon, is what I was trying to say here. So what's their last one? It is Fini. Okay. Works for me, because right now, with the Max Quake special defense boosts, you're really not going to deal too much damage to us in this late game. Especially boosting this Porygon. Like, Porygon can actually maybe 3v1. Or 1v3, I should say. And they just go for Knuckle. Yeah, that's fine. I mean, the Knuckle's a good play there, right? Because you get the knockout onto the Torkoal or the Porygon. If you KO Torkoal, you also get another attack boost thanks to your ability. But I'm fine with this. We have the Dynamax advantage right now. We're going to boost our special defense, which means that that's really good damage on a Fini. Another one's actually a KO. Okay. Yeah, I just don't think my opponent has enough damage right now. Okay. So I can just go for another Quake onto Fini. And I'll probably just set up Trick Room here. Like, there's very little downside to clicking Trick Room here, in my opinion. So you need to protect with Fini here or hope for a low damage roll. Muddy Water Accuracy Drop wouldn't do anything. Even if you crit attack from Fini on Calyrex, my Calyrex is surviving. So you could go for Knuckle and... You could Knuckle Moonblast, I guess, into my Porygon. And then hope for that to KO. I don't even know if it does with the special defense boost. I honestly wouldn't think it does, but let's see. Yep, it is just Moonblast. Okay. Maybe... Oh, Steel Spike. Okay, so I guess they were going for a Steel Spike critical hit there. I don't know if Knuckle would have gotten the knockout anyway. But it's smart, right? Because you give yourself a defense boost, which means now Fini should survive the turn. But the thing is that, like, this is why Porygon is such a good Pokemon, right? All of that damage, but it's going to basically completely be wasted because I can just heal all of it back up with the Porygon this next turn. So this should be a win at this point in the game, I think. I'm going to Trick Room up. I take burn damage. Max is over. We still have one turn of Dynamax relative to them, and more importantly, we have Shadow Ball on this Porygon, so I think all we do is go for another Quake here, knock out the Tapu Fini, go for Recover. Porygon's nearly at full HP once again. They can still win off a close combat crit onto Porygon, but even then, it's not like they're still in, like, a pretty rough spot, honestly. So, yeah, I really like the position we're in right now. And it was really just being able to burn Calyrex turn 1. I wasn't expecting Burning Jealousy to actually burn there, so... Mainly because I was expecting like a Hailstorm onto the Venusaur slot or like a double up there. But wouldn't be surprised if they went for Pyro Ball and Max Quake onto the Venusaur slot. Fini switches that, okay. Maybe into Sashaleki here. If you survive and then you get a crit, maybe you can do something. But there's Max Quake. Is it sashed? Nope. Okay. Cool. Yeah, that should just win us the game then. I think the main thing that's really good for us in this matchup is that my opponent didn't have any ground resist or immunities, so Max Quake was really, really safe. And eliminating Cinderace on turn 1 just gave us so much more room to work with, which was really nice as well. They actually just opt for Glacial Lance. Oh, but they do outspeed Porygon. Well, I should have thought a little bit harder about that. Hold up. I mean, I think it's still fine, right? Because, like, I just have Torkoal now, and I'll outspeed. And I can just click, like, Glacial Lance into Burning Jealousy. There wasn't anything I could have done there, right? What I could have done, actually, was clicked Recover with Porygon after I got doubled up, rather than setting up Trick Room immediately. That may have been slightly smarter, honestly, but... I don't think their Calyrex is that scary. Like, even with Heavy Slam, you're not KOing us, because it's basically neutral. And I'm at +1 attack. So I can just go for Glacial Lance here and a Burning Jealousy. It also makes sense to switch out the Regieleki because it's not going to do anything at this point in the game, whereas like maybe you can survive an attack with Fini. Because the Regieleki is just going to get one shot by almost everything. So let's see. Yeah, I don't know why in my head, like, I thought Porygon would outspeed. I think it was just because they were outspeeding us in the early game, and, like, I'd almost just kind of forgotten that they obviously are a team that appreciates having Trick Room up as well. Burning Jealousy does so much there in itself. And so, like, I don't think our Glacial Lance will KO here, but I don't need it to, because I think, like, their win con was, yeah, I guess hoping that it was a speed tie this entire time. You do outspeed us, and then you crit Glacial Lance. They should just go for high horsepower. Okay. I think even with the crit there, it wouldn't have KO'd. Cool. This was one in which, like, we had such a big advantage after turn 1. And once again, like, in a format with Dynamax, if you can, like, cripple your opponent's Dynamax Pokemon early on, it gives you such a big advantage. And the Burning Jealousy really saved us here. And, you know, like, Burning Jealousy is a move that Torkoal runs pretty frequently, but it's one where it's, like, you know, do you expect Eruption? Like, normally when I see Torkoal, I expect either, like, Heat Wave, Eruption, and Earth Power, or Burning Jealousy, like, Body Press, Yawn, Protect. So this set's kind of fun because it, like, blends the two together, and that's, like, not super, super common. But it literally won us the game, I would say, because if Calyrex weren't burnt there, they might have been just able to overwhelm us with offense. But as soon as you burn your opponent's Dynamax Pokemon, especially something as strong as Calyrex, it makes the game a lot easier to play. So, yeah. Either way, let's look for one final game. I think this might be a first, but somehow we run into the same player twice in one episode. That's really cool. Okay. Wow. That is a first. So how do I want to approach it this time? Last time it was just Weezing, Zacian, Zapdos, Landorus. And NGD is pretty good. We know they've got Pain Split. I still don't want to bring Riolu. Like, Still don't really see how they beat NDD plus Calyrex. Also, last time they maxed Airstream with Zapdos, I didn't see if they had max Flare or not. So, like, the question is, my opponent now is probably more confident in what I'm going to lead. But can they stop the lead is the question. If anything, I think the adjustment you make is bring out Grimmsnarl instead of screens. But I still think it's best to just go NDD, Calyrex, Torkoal, Venusaur. Ow, wow, this is wild. I don't think that's ever happened in Road to Ranked, or at least, like, not that I can really remember. So, we fought the same player twice. Very cool. Alright, well, let's see how this plays out. This is really interesting, right? Because Road to Ranked is pretty much always best of one. Okay, yeah, they make an adjustment, but it's going to be Gastrodon and Zacian. It's a pretty good adjustment. I think that makes sense, too. If I wanted to hard win against this, my adjustment would have been Venusaur. But I really did not... Oh, you know what actually I like? It's NDD plus Venusaur, maybe? Oh, but then the issue is you can always just switch the Weezing in to turn off Chlorophyll anyway. Which I don't love. But I think this is a great adjustment by them. I am still going to go for a Follow Me. I just wonder whether or not I even want to Trick Room this first turn. I think the answer is still yes. Okay, I'm just going to go Follow Me, Trick Room turn 1. Cool adjustment. Gastrodon was not something I really heavily considered, but it makes sense because it's bulky and it actually deals with Torkoal really, really nicely. Uh-oh. That could be scary too. Yawn from Gastrodon is what I'm expecting here. Yep. Oh, man. This makes turn 2 so interesting. I love that adjustment by them, right? Like, they did not bring out Gastrodon last time. They didn't reveal the Yawn. They didn't reveal Swords Dance. So it's like... It feels so much like a best of 3, right? So the thing is, I could go Helping Hand Max Quake here, or I could switch NDD out into Torkoal. That's the obvious play. I feel like if I Helping Hand Max Quake, I win if they attack with Zacian. I'm going to go for it. Mainly because Calyrex is so good into their team. The other alternative is to swap out NDD, get rid of the Sleep, and then max Guard with Calyrex. I just don't know if I love that. So, like, Swords Dance is scary, but it's not that scary if you don't actually get an attack off with it, right? Let's see. I love the Gastrodon adjustment, though. I think that's super, super smart. But it's, even with it, like, even if I predicted my opponent's lead here, I'm not sure I would have changed much. Like, Venusaur is, like, kind of the answer, but the scary thing is a Weezing switch in, right? So, get Helping Hand off. Is there Protect? Ah, well done. Well done. Well done. Okay. The thing is, with this damage, I'm thinking another Max Quake KOs anyway, but... Boy, are we in a tricky spot right now. I just think, like, the obvious play for me to make was to switch Indy out into Torkoal. I mean, it's still fine, actually. And, yeah, they actually tried to Earth Power to cover for the Torkoal switch in. Okay, so we don't take much damage there. Venusaur is not bad in the late game. This next turn is so interesting because if I'm my opponent, I'm actually switching Zacian out into Zapdos or Landorus. So the question is whether or not I want to make the read here. I also don't love switching ND out right now, especially with the special defense boost, because they're not doing much damage with Gastrodon. Just like a switch out is so strong for my opponent here. I'm gonna go for the Hailstorm play, but I really can see them staying in here, so it's pretty risky. Okay, they do switch though, nice. That's good. Into Landorus, cool. So at least we get the knockout and get rid of their Swords Dance boost. Yeah, I mean, if I had protected, I would have gotten a free switch into Torkoal, but it's not necessarily amazing. I think the questionable decision here was not switching out NDD, though, because if you're my opponent, I think Yawn into the Calyrex is by far your best play right now, right? So if I brought in Torkoal, at least like I can just spam Eruption with it. So even though the early game has looked okay for us, Yawn is such a good move into Trick Room teams. Okay, they do go for another Earth Power, though, so you can see that my opponent's been fishing for the Torkoal switch, and I haven't been giving it to them. So the last few turns have actually played out quite well for us, all things considered. Getting rid of Landorus is actually pretty sweet as well, just because it is a pretty big threat to Venusaur and Torkoal. I guess so is Zapdos, though. Like, the interesting thing is both last time we played our opponent and this time, you know, we put on the pressure first by Dynamaxing, but then the question is where do we go from there? I feel like I should have just switched in Torkoal. 2 turns of Trick Room left. It's my last turn of Dynamax on Calyrex. I have a special defense boost. We know if Gastrodon has Yawn. We know it has Earth Power. We've got Torkoal and Venusaur in the back, and my opponent's last Pokemon has to be that Zapdos. I can't see it being anything else. I don't think Weezing's out this time around. I love that adjustment, by the way, because last time they realized that I was playing very cautiously around Weezing, and they realized that I needed to respect the Weezing option. So this time around, they're like, well, they probably are still going to respect the Weezing, so I'm just going to use that knowledge and then bring a Pokemon that's a little bit more useful in Gastrodon. And that is a brilliant, brilliant adjustment. Okay, I'm going to go for Follow Me. I'm just going to Quake here, because I don't think a Hailstorm KOs Gastrodon anyway, but I could see them making the switchy play. Oh. The switchy play. I was going to say risky play. This. Okay, so this, they try to predict again here, but they didn't get it correctly. So, we had all the predictions go our way in this game, right? We were able to nail the Zacian on the switch out, and then also just go for the Quake here. Now, the reason I went for Max Quake here is because, like, okay, let's say you switch Zacian out into Zapdos. That's okay to me, honestly, because we've already gotten a special defense boost with Calyrex, right? So it's like even a max move from Zapdos won't KO us. And the key thing is eliminating the possibility of Zacian attacking. Like, that was the main thing we wanted to look for here. So let's see. Okay. It's still not over though, right? Especially because they did just get a Yawn off into my Calyrex-Ice Rider. So like they could pull off a comeback with Zapdos very easily right now. I have Torkoal and Venusaur in the back. The thing is I'm at +2 special defense. So like I'm not taking much damage right now. So I'm down to just Helping Hand and Glacial Lance, I think. And then we can... oh, they just end up forfeiting. Okay. That's the first time in the history of Road to Rank where we ran into someone twice. Or actually, the first time in Sword and Shield Road to Rank, at least. I'm not even 100% sure about that, actually. But at least it's the first time I can remember. I feel like... I can't really think of another time where that's happened before, but maybe way back, like a few years ago, and whatnot. But that was really fun. It was basically a glorified best of 3, right? I think the key thing here is ultimately we had a good offensive matchup, and I think the scary thing about Calyrex is debating between like the ground type attacks versus the ice type attacks, right? But in this case, like, yeah, we were just able to nail the Zacian on the switch out. It was kind of an aggressive prediction, but it was one in which like I really saw my opponent going for. Unfortunately, it paid off for us. Because the thing is, if I Max Quake there, not only do you protect your Zacian, but you also stalled another turn of my Dynamax, which is really essential. So I think like we just had a string of really good predictions that worked out for us, and they were like the one against Zacian the first time around was really high risk, right? Because if they just stay in and Behemoth Blade there, it's really like really bad for us. Like in fact, it might just be game winning for them. But that was a position where I felt like we were putting on pressure and they needed to react to it. And conversely, right, if you just stay in with the Zacian and I just pick up a knockout onto it, you're also in a really bad position because then you have to bring out a Zapdos or the Landorus there and I can just max Hailstorm. So this was us like being able to open the game wide open with one strong prediction. I think Gastrodon was a really good adjustment by them. I was really smart. Yawn was also very disruptive. And then, yeah, the Swords Dance was also really scary. But if anything, I actually think Swords Dance worked against them because it made me respect the Zacian even more than I would. Oh, I guess I probably still would have focused all of my attention onto it. But, yeah, I really didn't think we'd play the same player twice. But it was cool to kind of play a best of 3 and kind of see what goes into the mindsets of both ends, right? The reason I didn't make any adjustments against that player was because I felt like the NDD plus Calyrex-Ice lead was just the strongest lead. I didn't think they had anything to really hard counter it. And even though Gastrodon and Zacian was pretty strong from their end, it didn't hard win against us, right? Like we were still in a relatively neutral position from the lead matchup. So the reality is what I was like, okay, well, I just want to get Trick Room up. I don't really see much reason to risk bringing Riolu because if they bring Weezing, it's just really bad for Riolu. And Riolu is one of those Pokemon where, like, I only want to bring it if I'm confident in getting Copycat off to set up Trick Room and or coaching boosts for Calyrex. So Riolu doesn't make very much sense there. And then, like, once again, like, Venusaur could be good, but the problem is that Venusaur is really weak to Behemoth Blade from Zacian and Max Airstream from Zapdos and Landorus, especially because we have no bulk and we don't have a Koba Berry. So you combine all of those factors together, and the point is that, yeah, Venusaur can be really good into Gastrodon plus Zacian if you have Veno and Torkoal out at the same time. But I don't know for sure that my opponent doesn't have Weezing in the back, right? And if they do have Weezing to shut down Venusaur as I Dynamax and you just Behemoth Blade Venusaur, it's a complete disaster. So in that matchup, even though Weezing didn't come out, I still wanted to show it respect, and I didn't, like, I think if we play towards Venusaur Riolu too early on in the game, even though, like, they didn't bring Weezing, it could be really risky, and once again, you don't know they don't have Weezing until you see all 4 of their Pokemon, right? So, yeah, that was really, really interesting, but either way, that's going to be it for this one, so thank you so much as always for watching Road to Ranked. Leave a like if you enjoyed, don't forget to answer the question of the day, and I'll see you all soon. Alright, peace.